Bro, the nerves are starting to kick in, ladies and gentlemen. We're just a few hours away. The main card beginning for Albert Bow versus Abdullah Mason, WBO lightweight title on the line. I think to myself, if Abdullah Mason loses this fight today, defending his title for the first time, if he loses this fight against Albert Bow, then I'm putting him in the exact same realm as Xander Zayas. If Abdullah Mason loses to Albert Bow today, then he is the Xander Zayas of the lightweight division. Straight up. And why do I say that, ladies and gentlemen? There's too many comparisons. They've got too many common things going down with them in this fight. Ladies and gentlemen, although I don't think Albert Bow is on the same type of stature as Jerome Boots Ennis, both of these men are far more experienced than the fighters that they went up against. Jerome Boots Ennis had the experience advantage over Xander Zayas. Albert Bow has the experience advantage over Abdullah Mason. Xander Zayas was 23 years old. A lot of people were saying that he's in over his head going into this fight with Jerome Boots Ennis. Abdullah Mason is 22 years old. And although some people are actually picking him to win this fight, there's a lot of people that understand that this is a dangerous fight for Abdullah Mason to take on 10 days. A full training camp, a little bit different. But on less than 2 week notice, anything can happen, ladies and gentlemen. The adjustments that Abdullah Mason had to make are far more than the adjustments that Albert Bow had to make, being that Abdullah Mason went from fighting a completely different stylistic fighter in Joe Cordina, not only stylistically, but physically, body figure-wise. This is a tougher fight for Abdullah Mason. Some are also even saying, conspiracy theory, that they paid Albert Bow 6 times as much money as he was going to get paid to fight Andy Cruz. I'm hearing something around $650,000. A lot of people question why they would feed him Albert Bow when they know Albert Bow is a dangerous fighter. Maybe they're throwing Albert Bow in there because they know something. I don't buy into the theory, ladies and gentlemen. But Abdullah Mason has a world title, just like Xander Zayas had a world title. He was the WBO, WBA unified junior middleweight champion. Won his WBO bout against who? The vacant bout against George Garcia. The bout that did belong to Sebastian Fundora before he decided to vacate it. Didn't want to face his mandatory and Xander Zayas. He beats George Garcia and beats Abbas Barral to unify. So you look at what people were saying about Xander Zayas going into this fight with Jerome Boots Ennis. Not only did he have less fights, less experience, but the level of opposition. He truly hadn't faced any top-level, high-level fighter. Not even close to what Jerome Boots Ennis has fought. And a lot of people judge Jerome Boots Ennis' resume. They still, to this day, even after that performance with Xander Zayas, some people are looking at Xander Zayas now like, even though he had 2 world titles. Abdullah Mason has a world title, but yet, truthfully, has not faced any high-level competition. Some could say that this is the toughest fight of his career, stylistically wise. Now, Sam Noakes is a good fighter. Went to war with Abdullah Mason, but stylistically, we're going to have to see with Albert Bow if he's the man that he's been saying he is for the last 5 years. Then he should come in here and give it to Abdullah Mason. Abdullah Mason has too many comparisons similar to Xander Zayas, ladies and gentlemen. The only differences that I would say for me is looking at Xander Zayas And then looking at Abdullah Mason, I just always felt like Abdullah Mason was special, bro. Like how I look at Jerome Boots Ennis, you know he's a special fighter. I always looked at Abdullah Mason like he's a special fighter. I feel like due to that, he's going to be able to get it done against Albert Bell today. But don't count Albert Bell out. It's a 10-day notice. It's an under 2-week notice fight. And Albert Bell's a skillful fighter. He makes fights difficult. If you let him and allow him to install his game, the next thing you know, you're going to be losing by decision, Abdullah. And you better keep your hands up. Because at times, even though Albert Bell with a record of 28 wins and 0 losses, he only has 9 KOs. I've seen him launch that right hand before and knock guys caught out. And Abdullah Mason is known for being chinny, although he's gotten up, made adjustments, and came back. So if Abdullah Mason loses this fight today, ladies and gentlemen, he's officially the Xander Zayas of the lightweight division. Because you look at the division, you got the IBF champion and Raymond Morataya, who proved himself against Andy Cruz. He's proved himself. He looks absolutely great. Wanted to take a 25-75 split offer to take on Shakur Stevenson. Green Magazine title, IBF. Title would have been on the line in the goddamn lightweight division. And then the WBA at the time, I mean, not anymore, but Gervonta Tank Davis was the champion. Now you got the winners out of Floyd Schofield and Lucas Body going to become the champion. The WBC, you've got Lamont Roach Jr. taking on William Cepeda. All fighters that have been tested and all fighters who have been proven. Abdullah Mason, Sam Noakes is the toughest fight of his career, I would say, resume-wise. Now, he's going up against Albert Bell. He needs to prove himself against this man, who I would say is not on the same type of stature that Jerome Boots Ennis is on, that the hill that Xander Zayas had to climb. But Albert Bell was a monster for the 130-pound division. Barely had a couple fights at 135 compared to 130 where he fought most of his career. But he's a monster to deal with. He has all the advantages when it comes to experience, resume. He started his career in 2013. Abdullah Mason in 2021. All that. But if y'all would have seen the other video where I break this fight down and I talk about the flaws that Albert Bell makes, the way how in between combinations, his chin is just up in the air. This man could be countered and knocked out. Some of the worst hand discipline that I've ever seen in the sport of boxing. Albert Bell keeps his left hand at his waist, just like how T.O. would fight at times, getting caught by guys like Xander Martin for having that hand down. Going up against Southpaw, Shakur Stevenson took complete advantage of that. It was as simple as the jab for Shakur. Being a Southpaw fighter, being closer to Teofimo Lopez's orthodox position, left side with his hand down, that's exactly the same type of style matchup here with Albert Bell. Although Albert Bell is taller, Abdullah Mason has a 1-inch reach advantage. Albert Bell keeps that left hand down, and I've seen him get away with it his whole career. And he's been rocked, he's been hit at times, and he still doesn't pick those hands up. Sometimes you get away with it. Teofimo Lopez got away with it with Arnold Barboza Jr. Got away with it his whole career. Then steps in there with Shakur Stevenson, pays for a mistake that he made his whole career. I believe that's what's going to happen here with Albert Bell. If Albert Bell wins this fight, it's going to be by decision. And it's going to be just because of the experience. Abdullah Mason just not experienced, not skilled enough to figure Albert Bell. But I got Abdullah Mason winning. I see the flaws in Albert Bell's game. I see the way he keeps his left hand down. He stands in the orthodox position. Abdullah Mason is a southpaw fighter, closer to the left side where the left hand is down. I see the jabs, and I see a check right hook catching Albert Bell and changing this fight, ladies and gentlemen. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. The title of this video, if Abdullah Mason loses, he is the Xander Zayas of the lightweight division. Let's get back to the fights. I can't wait for the tonight. Let me know what you guys think.